Joining me right now, former White House Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, to talk more about that. Steve, it is great to have you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Here we are once again looking at some tough numbers in terms of this economy, Steve. And you had another bomb just thrown at us yesterday with Mnuchin and Powell saying that June is going to be worse than May. You are the former chief strategist of the White House. What do you tell President Trump going into an election where he's the business president that's supposed to be leading growth? And we've got these kinds of numbers.
Look, every day is election day. Every day is November 3rd. And I think if you look at really what the message was yesterday, I think it's quite reassuring that President Trump, Chairman Powell, Secretary Mnuchin are on point here on this. Number one, Secretary Powell said, hey, we supported and flooded the zone with liquidity to support all the asset classes on the debt side, and we have more firepower if we need it. Mnuchin, I thought, was very specific. He says, look, we understand we've had demand destruction. I'm very focused on that. And at the appropriate time, there could be another relief package that focuses on small business and getting cash into consumers' hands. That's going to take care of the demand destruction. I think that's very smart. The president's the greatest jobs president we've had since FDR. I mean, this is Donald Trump's wheelhouse. This is especially, and look at the CEO you had yesterday on from Flow Corporation. Today in Richmond, Virginia, you have an advanced manufacturing plant that's dealing in all three phases of how you make generic drugs. It's dealing with the precursors, API, and the finished generic drugs. Advanced manufacturing is environmentally safe. This is bringing the supply chain back from China. The president's going at the end of the week to the Ford Motor Company. Remember, we had this quote-unquote crisis in ventilators 60 days ago. Today, we're going to be a net exporter of ventilators manufactured in the United States of America. American jobs for American workers. That's how we're going to get out of this. And I think if you look at Powell on the asset side, you look at Mnuchin on the demand side, look at President Trump on focusing on jobs, I think you're seeing it come together. And today's the opening. People want this done rapidly. They want it done smartly, and they want it done safely. The American people demand that. They want to put politics aside, and I think President Trump's got the right team, and I think they're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, and you mentioned the CEO of Flow with us yesterday, and Flow CEO is Dr. Eric Edwards. He just received the largest contract ever given out by HHS, bringing manufacturing back to the United States, specifically in the pharma area. Watch this. How are you going to move the needle to get those pharma companies to do this and bring their manufacturing home? But you say you could do it without their help.
Well, we hope this is going to light a spark, and there'll be multiple companies who follow Flow's model here. Our goal is to start with those essential medicines that are at most risk for shortage. We already have started manufacturing these medicines. In fact, within a few months of submitting our proposal, we were turned on by the federal government in partnership with the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority to get critical medicines into the Strategic National Stockpile. So our focus is rapid surge response, protect these key ingredients, and then secure our future by bringing back a domestic infrastructure, securing our industrial base right here at home.
So Steve, there you had Dr. Edwards. I think you make a really good point about manufacturing in the United States. We're going to talk about China in a second, but we better fire up the manufacturing supply lines here, right? Because it's the services part of the economy that's getting crushed right now, and we've become a services economy. I'm talking restaurants, hotels. We need that manufacturing side of it for more than just the protection in terms of national security. We need the jobs.
Listen, President Trump's been a manufacturing president from day one. He talked that on the campaign. He's talked for years, like Lou Dobbs has. You've got to bring the manufacturing base back to the United States of America. It shouldn't be lost on anybody that yesterday there's an interview given in China by the author, the Major General today, who wrote that book, Unrestricted Warfare, how the Chinese Communist Party is going to try to take down the United States. He said, hey, look, the United States doesn't manufacture anything anymore. They have capital, they have advanced technology, they have great research, but we manufacture everything. We have a strategic advantage. Donald J. Trump understands that. Yesterday was a seminal day with that CEO. They're opening up in Richmond today. The Ford Motor Company making ventilators. You're going to see the supply chain, both the medical supply chain, but also the deeper manufacturing supply chain that's going to start coming back here. And this is the key point. It's not talk. It's action, action, action. And I think that's why the American people are going to sit there and go, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's putting his shoulder to the wheel. He's bringing American jobs back for American workers.
Well, there's also the China angle. This president has changed the conversation on China. And in the middle of this pandemic, we get threats from Chinese state media saying, well, maybe we won't send all of those prescription drugs that are made here that America needs so much if President Trump keeps poking. And you yourself have become a punching bag there. They're calling you, the Chinese Communist Party, enemy one. They dedicated a 90-second commercial to your personality and blasting your personality. There have been op-eds written about you. In terms of China, it wants to be the #1 superpower. Can the U.S. really stop that?
Listen, this is about the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese people are some of the greatest people in the world, decent, hardworking. They're in bondage. They're in bondage to this totalitarian dictatorship. President Trump has this great saying, no games, no games. The games are over with the Chinese Communist Party. If you look at what happened at the World Health Organization the other day, they had this international panel. President Xi, after allowing trillions of dollars of economic carnage to go throughout the world on his watch, he offered $2 billion and some happy talk about maybe have an investigation after this pandemic passes. The President of the United States countered with not a letter, it was a bill of indictment on the World Health Organization of how they've basically not just kowtowed to the Chinese Communist Party, but covered for them in this pandemic and led to all this destruction. President Trump now understands and is fully engaged in the economic war that the Chinese Communist Party is visiting on the entire world. It's an information war. That's the propaganda you just talked about, where they're coming after me and any American or anybody in the West or in China that stands up to them and shows about the slavery they've put the Chinese worker under. Look, they knew what was happening in December. They covered it up. This is why you have all this death, all this destruction. Donald J. Trump's called them out, confronted them, and now you're seeing whether it's the Thrift Savings Board saying we're not going to put money into Chinese companies anymore, or the Committee on the Present Danger, Kyle Bass and Roger Robinson, Kevin Freeman, sending a letter to Jay Clayton to say, we have to start deregistering these Chinese Communist Party companies on American exchanges, getting access to American pension funds unless they play by the same rules as American companies. Look, President Trump's not into the punishment business. He's into the fairness and justice business. And I got to tell you, the Chinese Communist Party day has finally arrived. They're not going to be able to play any more games. And all their cheerleaders on Wall Street, all their cheerleaders in the media, all their cheerleaders in global corporations and the party at Davos, their day is here. They're being held accountable for exactly what they've done to their own people and what they've done to humanity.
Well, you make a lot of good points, Steve. You're absolutely right in terms of what the president's doing. He's going to try to limit the money going into international, particularly Chinese companies, and he's going to start making sure they follow the rule of law. They have to follow the accounting rules of the United States if they want to be listed on these exchanges. Steve, it's always great to have you. Thank you so much. We will see you soon.